good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Oh yeah, the beat goes on and the protest, we understand, will continue today. But the tailback, I mean, the impact, it's, being felt in different parts of the country. There's so many perspectives yesterday. But today, we'll go right into the dailies and take you through how events are playing out and perhaps will play out. So we'll start with Nigerian Tribune today. Look at the lead story. Police brutality is a theme. Governors to set up judicial panels of inquiry. And then the host of writers here today wants IGP to halt SWAT, say its formation ill-timed. Call for immediate review of police remuneration. States to interface with protesters to set up victims support fund. Lagos sets up 7-man judicial inquiry panel, arrests 4 policemen involved in harassment of protesters. Reps give IGP 7 days to appear before House. Army warns troublemakers as protest continues across states. And protesters storm National Assembly lockdown Ibadan. So quite a host of them here, and it does occupy some space in the daily. And then you can see the image: Lagos, Benin Lagos Expressway lockdown as a result of SARS protest. So different parts of that. You had Lagos Ibadan, then Benin Lagos. So all feeling this protest, this SARS. So they combine both now, and that's what you get.
So one of the things that I think I want us to give a little more attention to is that statement that says that IGP is warning the policemen, to count careful the kind of things that they communicate. You remember what happened in Lagos, when the statement was put out, about what the police has done and what the people did, and and all of that. The governor's media aide said, "Look, I was embarrassed by it because it was pushed to him and he pushed it out." I mean, people need to recognize that this is not just one of those normal times. It is definitely not. And consequently, our communication should be different this time around.
Well, that's quite interesting. But, you've got that one there. But, there's this piece as well. It says, northern states have not rejected SARS la long. So when he spoke yesterday, maybe eventually people get to listen to that. So they wanted to know pointedly what the view is. But yeah, you see them, their perspectives reflected in the dailies here today. So at some point he said, look, there are some states that SARS have worked for them. Well, there are others that haven't worked. If it hasn't worked, what do we do? Should we have gone ahead and banned it? So, but the thing is, it's been scrapped. So this comment of theirs, what impact is it going to make? Are they saying, well, they should have consulted us before that happened?
Well, as you would say, maybe the answer would be in the papers, and of course to follow the news, we already have the report on our website and on our YouTube pages, so you can get the real gist of what the governor of the chairman of the Governors Forum and the Northern Governors Forum said. Well, it's also very important to know that the banning or the protests against SARS is on a general level, not just because of certain specifics, of locations.
Well, there you go. But you also have Constitution Review. INEC seeks replacement of manual with electronic voting. Presidential elections for 18 February 2023. Well, I hope this one sails through this time because they've been this route before. They've talked about this several times. They raise your hopes and make you look as if, it's all done and dusted. But at the end of the day, it takes you back to the process that we all don't want. Well, look at what's on the back page. Nigeria lifts ban on football outdoor sports. Oh, there you go. So while this ban is being lifted, FCT is banning protest as a result of what? COVID-19 protocols.
I don't even know how that can be valued into the...
And then I think they called it FCT Security Council or something like that.
Yes, FCT Security Council banning movement because...
many haven't heard that name before.
Of the movement of, of course, because of violation of COVID-19 guidelines and, by the protesters. And the people are like, okay, so how about the political rallies? So anyway, that's that. The Guardian newspaper this morning leads with, of course, the story you referenced the other time. Northern governors insist on SARS. Protesters defy threats. So there's the question there. Is that what the case is? Just as you said about another report the other time. Are they insisting on SARS because they don't like the idea of it being banned? Well, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. Thugs attack activists in Lagos. Army pledges loyalty to Buhari. Vows to defend democracy. Protect peaceful protests. EU endorses protests. Warns against rights violation. NGF rejects SWAT. Is it a rejection? Or question on timing. Defiant activists barricade NAS. Boo lawmakers. Protesters hire guards against attackers. Serap sues FG over attacks on protesters. It's quite a mouthful, wouldn't you say? So anyway, choose your pick. It's on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. And one of the... Yes, go ahead.
No.
Because one of the things that a number of people have said is, when they say the army pledges loyalty to Buhari, then someone are asking, is it the president to pledge loyalty to or the country? But then another argument is, but he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, so that loyalty is important. Well, again, depends on what side of the divide you're on.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, take a look at Vanguard newspaper next. Gunfire in Lagos as thugs attack NSAS protesters. So they also have a host of riders here today. The first of which reads, heavy shooting as thugs attack Lagos NSAS protesters. Highway blocked in Benin. Government vehicles hijacked in Oyo. Hoodlums disperse protesters in Osun. Taraba youths demand police reform. Abakaliki youths join protests, insist on Umahi addressing them. Is that going to happen? Well, it will be interesting to see how... Anambra State Governor has addressed them.
Yeah.
Kwara State Governor has addressed them. Lagos has addressed them.
Rivers has
addressed them.
I'm not sure if Oyo has.
Has Oyo? Well,
I'm not sure.
No, I think it was represented by the deputy governor.
Okay, yes.
So,
but the governor visited, the families of the victims.
Yeah. So if they're demanding the Ebonyi State Governor to address them, why not? Okay, so...
As they were demanding that the president of the Senate should.
There you go. And then protesters storm National Assembly in Abuja. Go home, give government chance to implement demands. Lawan tells protesters. Kayamo's driver killed during NSAS protest in Abuja. And then you have this one. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey backs Nigeria's NSAS protest, mobilizes donations. FCT minister invokes COVID-19 rules, bans NSAS protests. On the belly of Nigeria's sinking policing system exposed. That's by Gbajabiamila. And then you have Army's warning directed at miscreants, DHQ. Because remember, after we read that first release, and then you had another one, which was then put out there by Major General John Enenche, who is the coordinator, Defense Media Operations at Defense Headquarters. So this is the perspective that they are quoting now. So the first one, then this one. So it appeared that this one wanted to put in place or correct certain things or perceptions that may have been put in place by the first one in the first place, as though that first one had no business coming out.
Exactly. Perhaps an attempt to say, look, we're not against you, we're on your side. Something like that.
There you go. So, and then you have this image here. NSAS protesters reject SWAT and block the ever-busy Iyanokpaja Road in Lagos yesterday. So,
my God,
that's what you see here.
You've applied that route before. On a normal day, it's ever busy. Now imagine it being blocked. On a normal day, I don't know which is better or worse, the Lekki Expressway or the Tatiana.
Oh boy. So they've got their work cut out for them in that regard. And then you have NSAS, take charge of police tactical units. NEC tells governors, you must fish out policemen who kill protesters. Governors tell IGP.
I'm wondering how that take charge of the tactical units will work, given that, I mean, we know the chain of command of the police, so I'm just wondering.
Well, yeah, I guess as we progress, some of those things will eventually unfold. But again, you have different perspectives as to who did what in terms of Lalong, different perspectives of that reportage in different dailies. But take a look at what's on the back page here. AFCON qualifiers, raw happy to have new options. Hey, why not? If it's going to boost the performance of the team. So you might eventually just go ahead and see that one. So it's quite interesting. Well, don't forget to take a look at your Mr. and Mrs. It appears quite interesting. Well, that is Vanguard newspaper today.
Leadership Friday is also talking about the protests. The angle this morning is this. Governors reject SWAT as SARS protest spreads. Is that the case, really? The details are on the inside pages, page 4 actually. While northern states oppose scrapping of SARS, according to Lalong, FG sets up judicial panel to probe police brutality, compensate victims. FCTA bans street demonstrations. NAS begs protesters, promises speedy action on their demands. IGP warns police officers against use of force on peaceful protesters. Army vows to defend Nigeria at all costs. That story you'll find on page 4 of the Leadership newspaper this morning. Right beside that picture you see of former Vice President Goodluck Jonathan briefing the President on the political situation in Mali. Budget funding, revenue agencies shortchanging FG. That's according to the Senate. Revenue agencies shortchanging FG, according to the Senate. I think it was this week that report came out of the Senate indicting a good number of revenue agencies in Nigeria. How far that will go?
But the government eventually, I think they took over some of those revenue points when they were talking about certain leakages.
Yes.
So I wonder if that is still in spite of government taking over, that the President of the Senate made that comment?
Well, it was at the disclosure of, it made this disclosure at the end of the debate on general principles of the appropriation bill sent to the Senate. So,
yeah, but having taken over those leakages, those points where revenue was leaking, is he still of that view, even despite that? So that's what we're not sure of.
I guess we'll have to wait to see.
All right.
What plays out. A number of other stories you'll find on the front page of the paper this morning. You can take your pick. It's the Leadership newspaper today.
Well, look at Daily Independent next. Military warns as NSAS protesters vow to continue. FCTA bans street protests, cites COVID-19 protocols. Northern governors reject dissolution of SARS. CUPP rejects ban on protests, use of thugs on protesters. Serap sues Buhari IGP over harassment of protesters. NAS to push for implementation of protesters' demands. Governors asks IGP to fish out policemen who killed protesters. Kwara governor leads protesters to police headquarters. And then you have Sanwo-Olu identifies policemen who brutalized protesters. So other governors or security in their state, they will need to just follow suit on this one. So whichever state has any of such cases, they by now should know how to do. Even though yes, they told the IGP to do that, but Lagos has announced some of those persons here, so There you go. FG lifts ban on sporting events, asks civil servants to resume work. So, almost everybody, they want everybody to get back to work now. What? The NYC is going to go back to work now, and then they're talking about schools getting back. They lifted ban on contact sports. I think they thought, well, look, you have a lot of sports youths who, if they are not participating in sports, maybe channeling the energy elsewhere. So all of those measures perhaps meant to diffuse those protests everywhere else.
Plus, the issues with ASU is being resolved.
Well, even though I saw a mail letter from ASU asking all members to keep away from everything IP such that they don't jeopardize the negotiations that's ongoing with government.
Yeah.
So, who knows?
I mean, I'm wondering if that UTAS that ASU proposed would have even been given any thought, much less consideration.
Remember, the president said, look, if you're not an IP, it's no payment.
Yeah.
And ASU were putting their foot down, saying, well, no way. So
now,
what happens?
And now the youths are doing something, and now we can get some consideration. Anyway.
Wow.
Which made some people say, you know, wait, I'm not sure. They said they weren't sure whether the consideration, the issues being raised, you know, with ASU now, the considerations being given to ASU now, is it really in the interest of ASU as opposed to just using it to quell the protests that are going on?
Well, don't forget that September inflation, highest in 13 months, rises to 13.71%. Wow. There you go.
You know,
of course,
we talked
the
about
impact.
Food prices and prices of commodities and all of that.
And then just ever chipping away at the value of the currency, the purchasing power that people have got. It's also, it's equally just chipping away at a lot of those things, and then you just hope and wonder what happens. But then they also they equally have their own perspective of INEC seeking replacement of manual with electronic voting, fixes date for 2023 presidential election. So I guess all eyes will be on the National Assembly now concerning that. What happens to the electoral bill, the amendments? So I mean, by next year, you never can tell. You have a lot of political activity. So many are hoping they have to clear this now, such that it's not when it's almost time. Then you see this
rush.
Yeah. And then who knows if there'll be an excuse not to sign it this time around. You never can tell. Why don't you just do these things early and get it over and done with? But you never know. You just never know. Well, that's Daily Independent this morning anyways.
The Daily Trust newspaper this morning is also looking at the protests, but this angle. National Economic Council probes police brutality. Governors worried over SARS ban. Army warns troublemakers. Police decry use of force. SARS protesters defy ban in FCT. And northern youths attacked in Kano. Strong streets in Kaduna and Gombe. That story continues on page 5. The images you see there are of protesters along Bayero University Kano's old side yesterday. We talked about ASU earlier. FG agrees to pay 30 billion naira earned allowance to ASU. It has begun. Our story is on page 53.
So okay, I think they want to sort that out.
Well, yes,
nice.
This one is like
part of the
box check.
Take one box.
One box checked. So, UTAS or IPIS? I guess that's still ongoing.
I'll be a big one though.
Oh yeah, most certainly. All eyes on federal government and all eyes on ASU. All federal workers to resume on Monday. The story is on page 4. Concerns over food prices as Nigeria celebrates World Food Day.
Ooh.
That story is on page 10. Concerns over food prices, most certainly something of concern really, because I mean, if the inflation rate is gone as high as mentioned earlier, more than 13%, definitely something of concern.
Okay, look at Daily Times now. Southern leaders tackle North on restructuring state terms. Oh, okay. So, well, this is of course, we've had this kind of conversation previously in terms of what to do, how to proceed with all of these things. And you have different people who speak about this protest in different terms, saying, look, this is just letting you know that, let's say, did they say the challenge with the system and how things need to be viewed moving forward to prevent these kind of scenarios playing itself out? You just never know. So
that conversation is actually quite important. You know, there are different views about restructuring, just as you mentioned. So, and some have also said, look, I think a few of our guests on this issue of restructuring have said, look, it's important for us to have that conversation. We need to agree. It's not just because you want it and then we must want it, or because I don't want it and then you also don't have to have it. That conversation is important. And
besides, remember when we put out that poll, the overwhelming majority did say, well, they wanted them to include referendum in the Constitution. They need to have that option. So perhaps that was, it depends on how people read things. If they had seen some dissatisfaction with how things were going on, people wanted to have a say in different things, really. And so that was a huge one. So if they had...
yeah, and you know, it's what you have just said now underscores something very critical. You remember, during the Brexit referendum votes, you know, many people voted in a particular direction.
Yeah.
It was after that resolution that a number of people said, wait a minute, what have we done? You know, I think it was we heard that the youth population were shocked, you know, and all of that. But how valid that was?
Oh, they don't put up another. Look, there will always be that kind of reaction when votes go in a certain way.
Yeah.
But the votes didn't lie.
Oh, of course, no, the votes didn't lie, definitely. But what I'm saying is, so that should be a lesson for us, you know, in this part of the world. If that should be included, we have to be well educated before we make a vote.
Well, haven't people been voting over the years? Look at where the voting has gotten them over the years, as a matter of fact. So I think we'll have a huge experience.
When you put it that way,
in terms of better education,
I've always
voting.
told you, try and be nice occasionally, okay?
Well, people just want what they want, and so why shouldn't they have what they want? After all, it's a democracy. The majority should have their way.
Whether or not
that's a mantra, isn't it?
Whether or not it's good for them?
But they voted.
Okay.
And when you vote, it's about numbers. So they didn't add that clause saying whether or not it's good for you. You just go ahead and vote. And when you vote, that's what it is.
Nigeria News Direct. Clash of interest. SARS protests divide governors. Yes, that's the angle of the Nigeria News Direct this morning. Are they divided indeed? The details are on the inside pages. Page 3 specifically has a few riders. As NEC orders governors to control police tactical unit. Well, we want to find out how that's going to play out again. Directs special funds for victims of police brutality to investigate police brutality against protesters. That story is on page 3. Sanwo-Olu names policemen involved in brutality of Surulere SARS protesters. And a number of other stories there. FAC, FG states LGCs share 639.9 billion naira September revenue. And NEC projects 6.77 trillion naira revenue inflow into Federation account. That's the News Direct.
Okay, so there you go. That is it. We'll look at some of the dailies here today. We will be back in a moment. Don't go away.
Lagos State is taking the issue of police misconduct very, very seriously. Earlier this week, we all recorded an incident that happened at the Area C Command in Surulere. All the 4 erring officers, whose names I will also mention, have also been apprehended, and they are going through an orderly room trial. Is currently being conducted on them. They are Inspector Bogu Michael, Inspector Epodom Etop, Sergeant Namdi Majura, Sergeant Akinyele Benson. All the 4 officers have been identified, and like I said, they are going through an orderly room trial as we speak.
Welcome back. Continuing our focus on the End SARS protest, End SWAT, and all of the hashtags associated with this one will also come to play. Well, today we've got Mr. Chinedu Enujego, who is the immediate past president of the National Youth Council of Nigeria. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right. We also have in Abuja studios Mike Ejiofor, who is a former director with the SSS. Good morning, and thank you for joining us as well today. So,
good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, let's start with you. Yes, we've seen different responses from the government about this protest in terms of the demands, what they met, how they intend to proceed moving forward. So how would you situate all of this scenario in light of what the people want?
First and foremost, I will tell you that the reason for all this is when you have success and you don't have a successor, collapse is inevitable. So Nigerians are reacting, and there's actually nobody to address. It's a street gang matter that we're having now, because the National Youth Council of Nigeria, which is the apex body of all the youth organizations in Nigeria, has been destabilized. They have 4 presidents currently. They have a court injunction from Taiwo as at July, restraining anybody from parading themselves as president of the Youth Council. So there is actually no formal body that is propelling this protest. It's a street.
Even if the Youth Council were not dissolved, have they ever been leaders of this kind of protest?
I led a protest to the Nigerian military headquarters about 2 years ago, protesting in the street of Abuja.
Regarding what?
Regarding the Boko Haram handling.
So have you ever led a protest for police brutality?
Actually,
SARS?
we haven't led a protest.
So this is a different type of protest?
Yes.
So the Youth Council will just be one of the bodies that
no,
will be associated
you see,
with this?
all the youths in Nigeria are under the Youth Council.
By force?
No. It was in 1964 when the Youth Council was promulgated into law as the mouthpiece of all the youth organizations in Nigeria.
Yeah, but you know that there are people who don't even know about the youths, who don't know and care about the Youth Council. They want what they want. They can form their own groups and go ahead and ask for what they want.
You see, there is this understanding within the youth organizations in Nigeria. When you form your own youth association, maybe Christian-based youth, for instance, you must affiliate that organization with the Youth Council. If not, it will not stand.
Well, the country's law says that people have freedom of association. They cannot be compelled to be associated with any other group. So anyway, that's a different kettle of fish. The law, nothing stops them from setting up their own group and associating with whoever they want.
Perhaps
it can't be by compulsion.
Yeah, but perhaps the issue my colleague is raising is that the National Youth Council hasn't been as effective a body to speak for the youth over time. Consequently, legitimacy with the youth groups or even youth as individuals is not there.
And that is why I told you that when the ruling class, when the leadership of our country has failed to mentor the youth organizations that is responsible for organizing all the youth body in the country, it becomes difficult to actually identify and address issues like this and SARS.
All right, let's begin the same conversation with Mr. Mike Ejiofor. Well, you have heard all that's been happening, and you have seen all of the conversation of the federal government, the Governors Forum, the National Economic Council, everyone putting in their base to help resolve this issue. Given all of that, and that the fact that the protests are ongoing, what's your take?
Well, I must, first of all, appreciate and commend the Nigerian youths. I equally appreciate the Nigerian police, the government and people of Nigeria, and some governors who have taken the initiative to douse tension. You see, in a situation like this, it's difficult to deal with because there is no known leadership of the organized protests. Like my friend there was talking about, if we had known leadership, then you can say, let us negotiate. But this is spontaneous action by the youths. Don't also forget that youth constitute 65% of the population of this country. How I wish the youths come out to vote the way they are reacting now. And maybe it would have been a different ballgame. But the issue is that our politicians use the youths to actualize their dreams, and at the end of it, they abandon them. And that's what has given rise to what the situation we have now. And I want to actually appeal to our youths to exercise restraint, give government the opportunity. Like if you see, the government has been reacting proactively and at times in an uncoordinated manner. The northern governors will come and tell you, we want SARS, that has been disbanded by the Nigerian police on the orders of the federal government. Some governors are even leading the protest, to garner support for the youth so that they don't go out of hand. On the other hand, you have some miscreants who are going about attacking these protesters. And you see this kind of fluid situation, it becomes a very big challenge. And I think the way the government is reacting so far, they must be commended, the youth must be commended, because even when they are attacked, they also go ahead to get the people arrested and hand over to the police. We expect, too, that the police should be diligent in the handling of such suspects to know, especially like the situation in Abuja, what happened in Abuja 2 days ago, where some people started smashing vehicles. And so if we don't control this, we'll have a big challenge in our hand. For now, I think the government should look into the demands being made by the youths. And this thing cannot be handled without giving the chance. Like the auditing of the suspect, nobody is suggesting that you go and open the cells and release everybody. There are some people who are criminally liable. They should be sorted out, and the ones that have genuine case released. And that's one of the issues, some of the issues that are raising. Government should look into the issue, but I believe too, since this is spontaneous and there's no known leadership, some of the leaders too that even on their own, operating on the ground, should be courageous enough to lead these people aright so that we don't have a major crisis in our hands.
When you say you appeal to government and appeal to the youth to just give government a chance, many want to see transparency on the part of government from start to finish. But now there are certain actions which could be interpreted as though there seems to be some doublespeak here. We've seen the ban in the FCT for gatherings. They're citing COVID-19 protocols. But they've also just lifted the ban on contact sports. And we also saw how the rallies in Ondo and Edo went on in the thick of COVID-19. And so many just wonder. And then now that NYC, they're supposed to go back soon, ASU, do you think that they will misinterpret all those moves as attempts to try and deplete the ranks of the youth such that, they can break up eventually?
Now, I don't think I will even advise government to break the ranks of the youths. But the fact remains that the actions are very uncoordinated. The FCT security coming to say you should not demonstrate. These people have been peaceful. They have not been violent. So I don't see why they should ban this. And when we know, in the real sense of it, you cannot stop people from protesting as long as they are peaceful. All I expect the police to do is to follow them, monitor them, and ensure that they are peaceful. if like the FCT has said, they shouldn't come. I tell you, they're going to dare the police, they will come out, and there will be confrontation. So I want to use the opportunity to appeal to the police to continue exactly the way they have been doing in handling this protest. You know, even in Lagos, I see one police officer who joins them, because the people are actually not fighting, the youths are not actually fighting for themselves. They are even fighting for the police. We are talking of police welfare, we are talking of police training. What has been, it's well agreed and well noted in this country that police is ill-equipped, underfunded. Let us not be sounding like broken records. Every day anybody comes to say the same thing, that the police is ill-equipped. What is happening to the police trust fund that the act was enacted last year? Why is it moribund? Why is it not being handled? Government alone cannot fund security. So if you send somebody to go and do a job for you without equipping him, there's no way that person can succeed in doing the job. So we have the issue of welfare, we have the issue of training, which all the youths do are still maintaining that police must be reformed, police must be, welfare of the police must be improved. So it boils down to the issue of maybe policing in Nigeria. Like I've always said, policing in Nigeria is too centralized.
We'll come to that part in a moment. Just pardon me, Mr. Nchiko, have you ever experienced this action against by SARS, as the youths are talking about, personally?
Of course, I have. On 2 occasions, I have been stopped and then asked to come, that I must park. The guy said, you must park here.
Regular policemen?
No, SARS. They are federal SARS. And then I looked at where we are. It was not a conducive place to argue. So I quietly parked the way he
Were you extorted?
No, because...
This was just regular checks? So not the extortion part of it?
Actually, I tried to lecture the police, the SARS guy, what to do. You have just stopped me. Asking me to come down shouldn't be the first thing. The first thing is ask me, who are you? I will identify myself. Then you will know if you have to go on with your work or you will allow me to go.
How did you receive that lecture?
He said, are you teaching me my job? I said, of course I'm teaching you your job because I'm in position to teach you your job. And he said, okay, park here. So I parked. Then another one of the inspector now walked and said, you are teaching us our job. I said, of course. I'm teaching you your job because I'm the #1 youth of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I know your job and I know what you should do. He said, can I see your ID card as a youth council leader? I showed to them. And they said, okay, go. That's one. The second time was that my brother was arrested by SARS people. And that's about 4 days ago. About 4 days ago, and they were demanding for 400,000.
For what?
For nothing.
Sorry, did you say SARS?
SARS, 4 days ago.
But they have been disbanded.
A day after they are banned, or 2 days after they were banned, they stopped my own cousin. And they took him and locked him up in the police station by the Express in our Delta State, Asaba. I just came into town yesterday.
So what's the
situation
I went
now?
there.
I went there. And after much trouble, I told them that I'm going to lead a protest to this police station if you don't let him go. So that was, then they now released him.
So was the Commissioner of Police aware of this?
I didn't go to the extent of informing. I just went to the OC anti-court because they took the guy to his station. And I said, if you don't release this guy, I'm going to lead a protest to your station right away.
So this kind of experiences, if that happened the day after they were banned, yes. Isn't it what these protesters have been talking about, saying, look,
the protesters
this is just so much.
Correct. SARS is still working in Nigeria. SARS is still arresting people.
No, that was then. Are you talking about now?
If someone was arrested day before yesterday, a cousin of mine.
So does
so
that
why would I
suggest
believe that as at this morning that somebody else is not arrested?
So is that to say that the changing to SWAT doesn't mean anything?
No, our position at the Youth Council, which by the grace of God, maybe at the end of today, there will be a press briefing from the angle of the Youth Council. Our position is the IG. We thank him for saying he has banned SARS. But this SWAT thing is too quick. Therefore, it's unacceptable. Number two, if...
Sorry, before you go off of that one, it's a little interesting. So on the one hand, we wanted SARS banned, and we want action. And we want action as quickly as possible. Now, SARS is disbanded. The police says, okay, let's form SWAT. And now you're saying it's too quick.
Yeah. Let me tell you what I mean.
But you didn't give, there was no timeline by the protesters to the government.
That is why I said when you are addressing a street gang, it is difficult to lay hold on someone to negotiate with or someone to truly give you the blueprint, the real demand. So right now, we are of the opinion that, okay, the IG should first and foremost, remember these people are policemen before they became SARS. They were police, they were not employed as SARS. They were employed as Nigerian police officers. Now, you have disbanded SARS and sent them back to the station, for instance. They still have their gun. They are still the same human being with the same mentality. We are not asking for their sack. We've not taken their guns from them. Now that you've sent them back to the police station, what are they doing at the police station? What are they using? The same gun they are using. Have they shaved their beards? Have they worn Nigerian police uniform? That is one. So two, we are looking at what we expected, or my personal opinion. What I expected is this. The IG should have recalled these police officers, the SARS guys, send them to a compulsory orientation course, and tell Nigerians, have withdrawn these people from the street and from the station, and we are sending them to maybe a 6 months orientation or 1 year, so that the protesters on the street, we know that the bad guys are not on the street again.
We'll just come back and wrap this up because it's a tight package this morning. So just give us a moment. We'll be back. Well, Mr. Jofo, as we wind down now, from the look of things and having seen the responses across board, where do you see this headed?
Lost the sound there.
I'm just asking, having seen the way things are playing out, do you really think that the authorities will meet all the demands that the protesters are asking for?
Not possible because, you see, when they make one demand, end SARS, SARS has been disbanded, end police brutality. Nigeria as it is now, there's no way you end police brutality. It will continue. Like the man in the studio there talk about SARS people arrested people 2 days ago, which I very much doubt, because the police are directed that all the SARS people should report back to the headquarters. So I don't know whether they are ordinary policemen, other Nigerian police officers, or SARS still operating. I very much doubt that.
Now, on that one, very quickly, Mr. Jofo, just one moment. On that one, just one moment, Mr. Jofo. On that one, whether or not, it's the SARS people or it's the regular police, some might also want to ask you, how long does it take for such information to percolate down the ranks? We have 36 states in the country, and when an order is given, how quickly does it really dissipate? Because this allegation, so to speak, is not new. It's not the first time. So how long does it take, really?
It doesn't take any time. With the social media and the communication, any order given by the IG now gets to the Commissioner of Police, gets to everybody, and is complied with. So if the man was sure that these are SARS people, he should have gone to the Commissioner of Police to report, so the action will be taken. See, why should SARS still be operating under another Commissioner of Police when the IG had directed that SARS is disbanded? Now, coming back to the other issue you asked of, if the demands might be endless, because there's a proverb in Yoruba that a juju that is looking for blood, even if you give it all, it will not take. Much as we appreciate the youths for their efforts, there should be some exercise of restraint. Articulate your demands, get them together, and present it to government so that they will be handled. The NEC has issued a statement asking all the governors to audit the data, even get funds to compensate people who have lost their lives or people who lost their property in the process. So all these are healing processes, and I feel I'm talking as a statesman, as a Nigerian, a patriotic Nigerian. I'm also speaking on one part that have been involved in these operations for a very long time during my service. So either way people look at it. People might say
there was no restraint on the part of SARS when meting out some of these things to them. But Mr. Jofo, as we wind down, just a minute, as we wind down, because I mean, it's been suggested in different quarters that, look, in order to ensure that this really goes right deep and then to the basis, you know, to the core essence of this whole thing is, should there also be a way to identify, look, who are all these people in the rank and file, SARS officials? Should there be an auditing of their accounts? Should they check to actually fish out who are those that have been carrying out these kind of actions over the years, to be sure none escapes the radar and gets back into the force without having, I mean, as part of debriefing? Shouldn't that be part of the processes that should be carried out?
Exactly. It's part of it. People who have been offended, whose rights have been freed upon,
some of these SARS officials,
grievances and sent.
No, I'm talking about the account of some of these SARS officials. Should we check out some of these things and find out who's been doing what? Let's monitor these transactions. Are they conniving with officials of agencies? How do they get POSs? Who do they remit funds to? And those part of the thing that should be investigated.
That is what police has come up with, that the activities will be investigated. And we cannot, under this fluid situation, without giving the police chance, without giving government chance to look into all these matters. So committees at the state level that has been directed by the vice president or the presidency to be set up should look into all this. So people whose rights have been, should compile their grievances and send to the government or the commissioner of police for them to enable them look at. I see one SARS who have been reading in one CSP in Anambra. The governor has already removed him from his appointment. So all those ones, if there's no way you can handle a problem or we come up with a solution when a complaint has not been made. So the complaint must be formally made before it's looked into.
Right then, Mr. Michael Jofo, we do thank you for your thoughts this morning. Well, let's also get yours. First, he did wonder, the processes that you took makes him doubt whether or not that was a real SARS official.
Well, in Nigeria, sometimes we are diplomatic, especially when we are on air. We know how difficult it is to get to the Commissioner of Police. We know the processes if you want to go and report a policeman to the police authority. We know the difficulties. And sometimes we are really, as individuals, not ready to go through those difficult processes to go and possibly institute a matter you may not have all the time to follow up.
What part of it is difficult?
That is what I said, that seeing the commissioner to lodging your complaint directly to him might not be very easy.
But
to everybody.
Did you walk in, you were at the police station?
Yes.
Did you request to see the commissioner of police?
No, that wasn't the CP's, that wasn't the state command where the young man was.
But the police say they usually put up their emergency contact numbers and then police complaint lines that you can complain to. Now, it's important because if they put up those numbers and we don't try them and tell them that these numbers you put up don't work, how do we challenge them saying, look, your numbers are not working if we don't try them?
Anyway, I think we've gone past that now. We have a situation at hand. And my thoughts now is, what is the way forward? How do we end this protest? What should the IG do? I think that is where we are now.
How do we end the protest and how do we address the concerns that they have?
So I think that is where we are. And in my own opinion, the IG should, because these protesters is a street gang style, is not a coordinated youth body action. It's a spontaneous thing. So what I was expecting is for the IG to liaise with the Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports Development to reach the youth leaders in the 774 local government, because the council has structure in the everybody in the street has a brother. You have a friend. You belong to one place. So through this leadership, I think we can now enter into this crisis and remodel it. That is the only way it can stop.
All right, Mr. Onujoka, we do thank you for your thoughts as well today on the program. So we will be back in a moment. Join us again.
The Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Hakeem Udumosu, wants the officers to adhere strictly to the rules of service prior to their psychological and medical examination process to ascertain their fitness and eligibility for new assignment.
You are no longer, for now, an IPO to anybody. Don't go and do illegal duty. Because you know the people that are providing illegal duty for, the people that are providing unauthorized security to escort one thing or the other, which will catch you. And once you are caught now, the law should take its course. If you deviate from this, there are enough regulations in police acts to take action against any deviant officer.
On the issue of the ongoing protest, the state police boss appeals for calm so as not to allow hoodlums hijack the demonstrations.
So I advise them seriously, in their own interest, to have their own police within themselves, so that when miscreants who are not members of their group infiltrate them, they should equally bring them out, so that they will not deter from their original good intention. And please, you have no reason, we have no reason to attack you, you can't have no reason to attack police. And equally too, instead, we have rights, authority, mandate to protect them.
The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, had disbanded SARS and other units over outcry of brutality, extortion, and extrajudicial killings, replacing the operation with a yet-to-be-formed special unit known as Special Weapon and Tactics, SWAT.
All right, so we've had two other gentlemen joining us now on the same subject matter. Abdulaziz Sulaiman is a spokesperson, Coalition of Northern Groups. Abdulaziz, thank you for joining us this morning on the program.
You're welcome.
Okay, we also do have Abdurrahman Agwala, who is the Director, Strategy and Planning, Citizens Action for Good Governance. Thank you as well for joining us. Let me start with you, Abdulaziz Sulaiman. Having seen some response from northern leaders and young people as well about this protest, what kind of messaging are you getting about it?
Actually, the protests, as far as we are concerned, are getting out of hand somehow. But we want to look at the End SARS hashtag as just symbolic. That's speaking about security in a broader sense, the insecurity that is ravaging most parts of, some parts of Nigeria, especially northern Nigeria. So what we want to believe is that when people say End SARS, it's just symbolic, as asking for improved security. And having ended SARS as it is, if they were only talking about SARS, protesting about SARS, I think they could have dispersed. That means there are other things below the SARS hashtag, which I believe are good to pursue. For instance, the issue of reopening our universities,
Go ahead, we can hear you.
The issue of reopening our universities, the issue of insecurity, I think they can all come under that hashtag. But in practical terms, I don't think it's about ending SARS alone. Because ending SARS to us does not make any difference Because if you end SARS as the name of a unit, create another unit called SWAT with the same personnel coming in with the same attitude, I don't think anything but the name has changed.
I thought that your coalition is saying that, yes, the youths were right to have gone on this protest, and as a matter of fact, you're also seeking to escalate this and ensure that the governors sit up and address several other insecurity challenges up north.
Well, that's what we are saying. We said now that SARS has been scrapped, so there's no need again to be talking about SARS, but to talk of the broader problem, that is insecurity. So that was why we said they are right to have started the protests. In fact, they did not start it. We were the first to have protested over insecurity. But when they came up with this end SARS issue, what really motivated us was that we now came to realize that government can be responsive under pressure. So we felt that we have an obligation to cash into the current momentum, the current tempo, and push for improved security in northern Nigeria.
All right, Mr. Agbola, well, with your group, clearly you don't think that this is one of the ways to go, but the government did think that, yes, the youths, they have a point, and anyone who suffered police brutality, and then families have equally lost their loved ones, and so they moved on to ensure that, okay, well, SARS becomes history. The governors have been mandated to set up facilities and ensure that these issues are addressed. So give us your perspective about the response and then the demands that have not been met so far.
Well, fundamentally, we should understand the fact that we have our rights as citizens of this country. And the governments equally have right to make decisions on issues in as much as it doesn't violate the rights of others. As far as we are concerned, we look at the issues beyond the euphoria of the moment. If we all agree that we have high rates of criminalities in Nigeria, and #EndSARS implies that some people have bad eggs in the police force who are under the unit called SARS have actually been brutalizing the members of the public and have actually been doing a lot of damages to the system, that shows that criminality has become endemic in Nigeria. And who are the major people to be blamed for the insecurity? Most time we push it to the government. Is it the government that tells people to go and commit crime? Is it the government that tells people to go and be outlaws? We should understand issues fundamentally that end SARS protests should be viewed beyond the issue of the police. It should be taken holistically as an issue that has to deal with the mindset of the people in respecting laws and orders. For us, the protesters have made their agitations known wide and loud enough. It is audible and it is heard by everybody.
Yeah,
but
Mr.
the government
Agbola,
has already said
when you
these
say
are the
that,
fundamental actions to be taken
just a moment,
immediately.
Mr. Agbola, let me put this in. When you say that, is it the government that asked people to go do certain things, are you in any way suggesting that the government is wrong to have said, well, we actually are in charge of these things and we take responsibility?
It is the responsibility of government to resolve issues. It is the responsibility of government to lead the people rightly. It is the responsibility of government to make things work out for the system.
So what was your point when you were saying
the angle of people making it to look like the people versus the government, it doesn't work that way. We have to look at it from the Nigerian perspective. We are all Nigerians and lovers of this country. We want this country to move forward. We don't want indiscipline to take charge in this country.
Yeah, okay, so when these killings and this police brutality had been happening over the years, what did you do about it? Or your group?
Well, we have been campaigning against criminalities, whether by people in government or by the citizens themselves. But we are at a point where we must understand that moving forward, what we need collectively to agree upon is that people should respect laws and orders in Nigeria. The right of the people to protest is guaranteed, and we support the right of people to protest. But when issues become so deep that we don't want to equally accept responsibilities for our liabilities, we should equally understand that.
Okay,
that
Mr. Agbola,
forward properly,
just one moment.
All of us desire.
Yeah. Just one moment.
We must all understand.
Just one moment. Okay. Let's decrypt the issues. When we talk about government, sometimes the idea of government is faceless. So let's decrypt it. Let's take it down to the brass tacks. Have you, or are you aware of anyone who has ever been directly brutalized by an officer of the SARS that people are protesting about? Has it happened to you before?
Even personally, I've been a victim of harassment of SARS operatives on the highway.
How severe was it? Just one moment, Mr. Abuja. Just one moment. Let's paint the picture so that people can understand what you're saying. Have you been kicked in the head? Has a gun been drawn on you? As some people have said that this has happened to them.
Well, funny enough, I wouldn't give any security officer the chance to brutalize me.
Okay,
at any point
there
in
are
time,
just one moment.
Understand the fundamentals and the
just one moment. But there are people who do not understand these fundamentals, who have been brutalized, whose minds, whose conscience have been scarred as a result of the activities of men of SARS. Do you think that their agitation, a good number of them, there's a report that says 1 out of every 5 Nigerian youth has been brutalized by these SARS officers? Are you saying that their actions is not valid?
While their actions are valid to protest and demand for end to brutality, whether by police officers or any other security agencies, we should equally understand that that statement you made right now, as far as I'm concerned, is fallacious. To say 1 out of 5 Nigerian youth has been brutalized by the SARS. Let's begin to keep our records clean. I'm a statistician by discipline. I understand what is called statistics.
Okay, if you say, just one moment, Mr. Agbola, just one moment, Mr. Agbola, just one moment. If you say that my figures are fallacious, what's yours?
We know very well that there are cases of brutality, but not to the deep level of taking 1 out of 5 Nigerian youths. That's
you still haven't answered my question, Mr. Agbola. Just one moment. Yes, but do you have a contrary report to validate that this that I have given you is not correct?
We have cases in the northern Nigeria here. I live in Abuja and Nasarawa State more. The case here is different from the pictures that is being painted down south. We should understand these things. If you say in a particular place, the brutality of SARS is so deep and endemic, is understandable. But to generalize it, it is not too right for all of us to understand. This generalization act is what I'm speaking against. Okay. We can't generalize issues because we want to make issues out of it.
So are you then saying, Mr. Agbola,
it's not good for the system.
Okay, just one moment. Are you then saying that the federal government has equally generalized by taking the decisions and the actions that have been taken?
Okay, if the federal government, in terms of the pronouncement to end SARS, has equally generalized, which is the reason why you see the northern governors coming out to say they are not in support of the generalization of end SARS. The governor of Borno State requested that the officers of the defunct SARS should be sent to Borno State for them to come and help them to combat insecurity in Borno. You just showed the governor of a Plateau State now, where he mentioned the position of the governors of the North, We need to understand these things and weigh the balance.
Mr. Agbola, don't. Now you are making a generous fallacious statement. What the governor said, which we all heard, is that some governors, it actually worked for them. He didn't say that is the position of northern governors. That is not what he said. Is that what you heard?
If that has changed based on what you said now, I don't know.
No, it did not change. It did not change. It is a recording which was played again this morning. So it depends on, maybe you heard what you wanted to hear.
Well, I do not subscribe to what you have said anyway, because what I heard clearly was that he said they need SARS to be in the north.
No, that's not what he said. We could play it back for you again. He said for some governors, it has worked. So if there are places that it hasn't worked, let's take a look at it. He didn't say that is the position of all northern governors. So again, you heard what you wanted to hear. That's the way it is. Well, let's get to...
Okay, the way it goes is I understand the perspective and issues. Now, I won't argue on that, because you have the record clear.
Yes, it's right for everybody to see.
we need to come to a middle point and understand the issues clearly and have solutions to it immediately.
In other words, you're saying the president...
issues of protest in Nigeria.
You're saying that the president made a mistake?
Must be resolved amicably for all of us to have peace and tranquility. Let us
so, Mr. Agbola, with all the information that the president had, and then the IGP coming to that decision, you're saying that they relied or they were misled and they made a mistake? Is that your point?
No. The action of the IGP is in right order to have actually ended SARS based on popular demand. What I said is we should not generalize issues. We should be able to separate what is the truth and what is not the truth. We shouldn't take issues because it's a popular demand and we have situations already at hand. Then we begin to say the old truth is this, where we have other issues. We have people that have equally attested to the good work done by the officers of the SARS. We have agreed that many of the officers took it beyond normality. And all of us said, okay, if in as much as the announcement has been made that the SARS has already ended, let us move forward. Let us stop police brutality. Let us educate the members of the officers of the police force not to brutalize anyone. Let us make sure the people equally comply with law, and let us move forward. All the agitations that have been made, they are very good for the system. We understand that.
But the thing is,
we can't equally allow violence to become endemic in this situation.
So let them arrest anyone who is being violent. But if people are out there peacefully, even the government has said it, they have a right to peaceful protest. So you can't see anything different from what the laws require. That is the law. It is a position of the law.
I've equally led protest as well, and I will still lead protest in future.
Well, unfortunately, that's not the issue.
Today. The issue is
that is not the issue.
We should not let these things get out of hand. It shouldn't go beyond normal.
Mr. Agbola, Mr. Abdurrahman Agbola is a Director, Strategy and Planning, Citizens Actions for Good Governance. We've also had Abdulaziz Sulaiman, the spokesman, Coalition of Northern Groups. Gentlemen, thank you for your thoughts this morning. We're back in a moment. Join us again. Well, the rendition went on yesterday, but let's get to the streets. We've got Ladi Ogunsheye, one of the protesters. He's on ground somewhere, so let him... Ladi, hello, thank you for joining us today. So where are you and what is happening today?
So I'm currently at Alausa in Lagos, Ikeja, and mobilizing each other for today's activity, for today's protest activity.
How did it go yesterday? Tell us we heard about that rockers. Eventually, we heard that you guys had to reconvene. What happened? How did it go? And what's the expectation for today?
Yeah, so yesterday we got information even as early as 1 a.m., 2 a.m. We got information that would be attacked. We made contact with the security agencies to ensure that the attack was prevented. But to our dismay, we found out that everyone heard us and everybody responded to us. And during the day as well, early in the morning, we got a couple of hoodlums who came here and tried to stop the protest. But one thing that is sure that we have always keep on orientating ourselves on is that we do not want to engage anybody. We are because our demonstration would be a peaceful one, we would maintain peace, we maintain law, we maintain order in this protest ground that has become ours.
All right, but Boladi, some of the responses from government includes, in fact, one of the, the recent one is that the Lagos State government has announced the list or the names of those police officers who were involved. How are the protesters receiving that information?
that information will come from but people are finding it positive because one of the key issues here is that we are seeing a lot of inaction from the government. So and one of the key actions that we are seeing that which is let us call out the perpetrators of injustice and let them start by immediate action. Let them start justice. Let those who have died, let them not die for anything. Let them not die for nothing rather. Let them die for something worthy. And this is something that a lot of people feel as action we want to see. We do not just want the government to keep promising. We want to see action. We want to see real action. We want to see real action being taken from the government. And so yesterday as we heard that there's been a my panel was set up. The panel was set up, and then across the panel, none of these people can say that I am I understand. I can relate to it. Many of them are over 40. People who are exposed to police brutality, who experience police brutality, so if you want to set up a panel, if you want to set up a committee, you have to be people who can relate to what these young people can relate to. Because if you can't relate to what I can relate
to, we do understand the circumstances of where you are, so there's a lot of background noise which is drowning some of what you're saying, so lots of people can't quite make that out. But we'll come back to you maybe a little later when it's a little filtered out, if you could move elsewhere. But then let's just quickly show you some images coming through from the streets of Abuja as well. Remember, the FCT did make some announcements, but somewhere in Aguiyi Iron Seaway in Abuja, well, cameras are there. Lots of people are looking at in different parts of Abuja, trying to see what will happen eventually. So slow space, picking up slowly. Much different from that of Lagos.
Well, it's interesting really because, I mean, usually the protests take off around 10. Usually we'd want to take off around 10, but now it's earlier that we have now. So
well, we've got a correspondent right there as well, and several of them keeping tabs in Abuja. So just to give us a quick word, well, do we have Lucky? Is out there right there, just taking a look at what's happening? Lucky, hello, where are you? Okay, well, I guess we'll bring you that on a little later as we progress.
Well, back to Lagos, we have the Commissioner for Information in Lagos State, Benga Omotosho, joining us to take this conversation a little further. Thank you for joining us. We'll get to Lucky in a bit. But, Mr. Omotosho, very, very quickly, this thing that happened yesterday, one of the issues a number of people have is that, look, as far as they're concerned, it's the Lagos State government, because that big blue bus could only have come from such an authority that conveyed those thugs that came with machetes to disrupt the peaceful protest that was ongoing. Even though the government has since refuted the idea that, you know, it's not from them. But please tell us, what exactly happened? How come they had access to that kind of vehicle? Oh, no. That sounds like the protest ground.
That's not my voice. I didn't say that. It wasn't me.
Clearly it wasn't you. You know, but, you know, it's very interesting. I'm sure that the government would want to have a lot of things, because it's just as I think you said, one of these episodes of this program, it's not an easy time to be in government.
Yeah.
But
so
you asked for the job.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's part of the package that we had today, which is that we had so much trying to unpack a lot of what was going on today in different parts of the country. Well, yes, we've seen some response from government. They're appealing to the protesters to sheathe the sword. But, you know, on the part of the protesters as well, when you've been a victim, you've experienced some of these narratives, it could be quite emotional.
Absolutely.
It could be really deep. Some of the damage that has been done is irreparable.
Yeah.
You can't bring back some lives that have been lost. And to make the matter worse, some say they even as recently as yesterday or 2 days ago experienced some other SARS officials carrying out certain things. And so that is not what you want to see.
Absolutely.
In spite of all the president has said, and done, and that of the IGP, or what the protesters are asking for,
Or
and still asking.
Even the state governments, on their own.
But I think we'll have a man back, Lucky. So we'll go again. Lucky, hello, good morning.
At the moment, we are in front of the National Human Rights Commission along Aguiyi-Ironsi Way in Maitama district. A group of youths who are in support of SARS, who are in support of total reformation of SARS, have gathered here. And we understand the End SARS protesters will also be gathering to block the city gate. We've been to the city gate. Nothing is happening there yet. Right now, a group of youths have gathered in front of the National Human Rights Commission. Behind me, we have the popular Hilton Hotel. So we are not far from the Hilton Junction. The youths are already gathering. They are calling for the reformation of SARS. They are calling for a total reformation of the police. And they are asking the End SARS protesters to stop demonstrating against the reformation of SARS. Yesterday, the FCT Security Committee had a meeting and banned all street protests. So we'll be waiting to see if this will be enforced later this morning, as some of the youths are already gathering. Right now, there are no policemen on ground, so we don't know if this will be enforced this morning. Also, officials of the National Human Rights Commission are also coming into their offices. Don't know if they will be attending to these youths who are already gathering here to support the reformation of the Nigeria Police Force, the reformation of SARS. This is day 10 of the protest in Abuja. At the moment, everywhere is calm, the place is peaceful, no incident whatsoever. And when we passed in front of the force headquarters, policemen were in front of the force headquarters. They have secured that area. More of the youths have come, and they are behind the camera. We can't see them at the moment, but they are getting ready for the demonstration in support of reformation of SARS.
All right, then, thank you very much indeed, Lucky Saode. So we're going to be keeping tabs on that one. As you saw, the youths are converging. Who will enforce that? But interestingly, nice face mask by Lucky. It looks like filler. I like that.
Oh, you don't have to.
Oh, boy.
Why do you have to notice that? That's hate speech. That's
what?
hate speech. Yes, that's hate speech. Also interesting, as he was speaking, you could see some of the youths coming off of the vehicles that brought them to the place. What I'm just hoping, as a number of people, even governors have asked, is that attempts should not be made to break the ranks, because when the youth, largely peaceful so far, more than a week now, largely peaceful on their own, that really speaks something. So any attempt now to try to deliberately break their ranks, I don't know how peaceful that could be.
If it helps. I think there was a statement by the police yesterday. I think they were talking about peaceful protest, anyone who infiltrated, that the police should find a way to maintain or secure those who are protesting peacefully.
Yeah.
So the police very much, I think the police themselves have suffered for a long time from starvation of funds to carry out the activities, which is part of what the protesters are asking for anyway.
To ridiculous welfare of the policemen.
Look at where the policemen sleep in terms of the barracks. So sometimes you look at...
also, pardon me, to the way in which they are trained.
Exactly.
So their training quarters, their training processes, everything. You heard one of our guests, was he yesterday, was saying, look, we need to upgrade everything about the police.
One channel did that feature on the police training college, where at the time the government said we were sponsored by opposition party. Some of the people who should have known better at that time labeled us. So people around government themselves don't make it any easier, any better. They come from society, but when they get into government, you see them act so differently, as though they won't be going back to the same place that they came from after government. They don't stay in government forever. And then there are families who are part of members of society. So you can't get into government and begin to not tell government the truth or shield government, prevent them from... government is there for the people.
Absolutely.
We are taxpayers. So who will say that Any taxpayer has no right to ask questions of any agency or government they think is not doing what they are paying their tax to do. No way. They have to ask questions.
Absolutely. And all of that ought to be well taken in. And I think that's what the police is doing right now, just taking it on board and say, okay, we accept it. And the president also saying, we accept it. That comment when the governor of Lagos State was talking to him, it was like, wait a minute, I said this thing yesterday, and it was quite encouraging to hear that. Let's see if the Commissioner for Information in Lagos is available now that we can speak with him. Well, so Mr. Gbenga Motosho, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Good morning and thanks for joining us this morning. Well, of course, that question already went out. The people that went to try to disrupt the process yesterday in Lagos at Alausa precisely, and they went in a big blue bus that many people could only identify with Lagos State as a government. And of course, government says it's not us. So what happened?
Let me tell you first that clearly that Mr. Baide Sanwo-Olu, the governor, will never tolerate thuggery, because this is the center of excellence. We are not known for that. And coming back to yesterday's incident, if you watch that video clearly, you will see that there were passengers on the bus and that these miscreants were coming. And they felt they were going to be attacked, and some of them tried to escape from the bus. One tried to escape through the window. And luckily, the miscreants came, and they didn't attack them, they moved on. So the passengers returned to the bus, and then the bus went on its normal operation. The driver of the bus spoke on television yesterday and explained what happened, and said that the incident was less than 5 minutes, and that after a few minutes, all was well. So I do not know why some people are insinuating that the government did it. The government will never go the thuggery way.
Well, perhaps the issue that a number of people have seen over time is that whenever such a process is going on, government feels embarrassed and consequently wants to make themselves look good. So you don't blame those who are saying that. Now, what kind of support is government, if at all, given to these protesters to make sure that their point is not just received, but is actioned by government at various levels?
Well, Mr. Baide Sanwo-Olu, the governor, announced yesterday that the policemen who are involved in the Surulere incident were undergoing orderly room trial, and that the government is monitoring closely the trial to ensure that justice is done, and that those people who are brutalized in Surulere, that they get justice. So, and all the other points that they have made, the governor has done everything, such as the detention of people. All of the people who have been detained have been released. And the governor said so last night that should you have anybody who is in detention who has not been released, let us have the name of such a person, and we will ensure that the person is released immediately. So all of the things that they are asking for, the government has done. And the government is now saying that two wrongs don't make a right. And our young men, you have made your point, your voice has been heard clearly and loudly and globally, and that we should go back to embrace peace and allow the government to take the matter from here, so that all of the things you're asking for will be done and more.
Well, Mr. Omotosho, you would agree that a number of times promises have been made that people waited endlessly for its fulfillment. But we have to thank you very much and hope that all of this will be sorted in good enough time. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, one more time, just to get some of the pictures coming through from Abuja. These are live images of what is going on in the Federal Capital Territory at the moment. So there you see, that's the Aguiyi-Ironsi Way. Earlier they were gathering, but now this is what is happening as we speak. So yes, we do remember that the FCT did make some announcements concerning gatherings, and they call them, I think it says Security Committee of the FCT. But the police yesterday did say, well, ensure protesters are protected.
Perhaps that means that the security committee is different from the police.
Who's going to enforce? Who will arrest? What law will the security outfit or committee in Abuja rely on to do these things?
Well,
I guess time will tell. We'll keep our tabs on that one. You see much later on News Track, as it were. And don't forget that picture about one of the civil defense officers and a young protester giving him water to drink was a fantastic imagery that went on over the week. And so we do hope that that kind of scenario and camaraderie will continue on these streets. So that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. Remember, just ensure that you stay safe out there. We'll see you next week. I'm Chamberlain Osol.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a good day.